across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Tuesday, July the 22nd. Here's what's coming up. He took over on Monday. It's now Wednesday. And already the wheels are falling off the Burnham bus. Promises, promises, none of them funded. Where's King Andy going to find the £340 million that he ludicrously claims will end rough sleeping, which of course it won't? Where's our Messiah without a mandate going to find the £850 million to pay for the VAT cut on energy bills that will save lucky Brits a whole 86p a week? Where's he getting the £450 million to underwrite Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander's £2 cap on bus fares? So far, sadly, our new undemocratically imposed supreme leader shows all the signs of being just another left-wing Labour idiot who believes in the magic money tree. How long is Mr. Eyelash's feel-good factor going to last when he is forced to admit he hasn't got the cash to fulfil any of his fatuous pledges? 0344499 1000. Meanwhile, is our saintly Prime Minister really going to preside over a new, decent kind of politics? Or will he let his tax dodger Housing Secretary Angela Rayner keep the £17,000 payoff she outrageously received after being forced to quit the role 7 months ago for not paying the stamp duty on her swish new seafront apartment in Sussex? If he does let her keep that cash, it's clear that Mr. Burnham is going to tolerate more of the same old Westminster sleaze. Of course he is. They're all the same, aren't they? 0344499 1000. In other news, how the grieving family of brutally murdered PC Andrew Harper must have laughed as hopelessly unqualified new Defence Secretary Wes Streeting cracked a hilarious joke about Justice Secretary Alex Norris letting out all of Britain's prisoners, quipping to giggling Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, "He's the enemy now." Both Streeting and Mahmood have apologised, and Burnham has condemned the dismal duo's, what he called, in quotes, incredibly disappointing remarks. And his shiny new administration off to a great start. 0344499 1000. I'll ask expert, guess why the hell two of the thugs who dragged newlywed PC Harper down the road to his death after his ankles got caught in their car's tow rope are getting out of jail after just 6 years. Why are these animals even considered worthy of early release? 0344499 1000. Also on today's action-packed show, Robert Jenrick's dismay after being grilled by Labour politician masquerading as a TV presenter Ed Balls on ITV's laughably biased breakfast show Good Morning Britain. Reform UK's Treasury spokesman caught on mic sighing, well, that was a waste of time. Yeah, as always, as per on GMB, Robert, you'll find that. And finally, the pet monkey left on the 302 London bus. Find out why animal welfare activists fear that this frightened little marmoset will be the first of many primates abandoned by their owners. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday afternoon together. Let's go over to my first guest. She is Talk's excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, thanks for joining us. Before we get going, the big story of the day is the outrageous news that two of the thugs who killed poor PC Andrew Harper, dragging his body along the road for a mile, literally skinning him, the most brutal death, the most brutal murder possible. Two of the thugs who committed that crime are slated for early release in September after serving just 6 years. This has caused a hell of an outcry. Andrew's poor widow saying she can hardly believe it. His mother saying that this is an insult to her son's memory. I think we can all agree with her there. So Andy Burnham under pressure. What he said, first of all, was, oh, don't worry. You know, the actual driver of the car, the worst criminal, he's not being released. Well, we already knew that. So that's Andy Burnham trying to act tough. Yeah, he's staying behind bars. Well, he already was. So that doesn't bring anything to the party. He is now under intense pressure, Burnham, to make his first executive decision and basically say these two monsters, these two animals, are not getting out of jail. Here's what Andy Burnham had to say about PC Harper's killers earlier today.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release. Of course, others involved have potentially been identified, but I've spoken to the new Justice Secretary. We will review the policy together and make further statements in due course.
Not good enough. I mean, fair enough. You know, the decision to start releasing prisoners was nothing to do with Andy Burnham, but he's inherited Keir Starmer's nightmare. Alex Norris is the new Justice Secretary. The situation here is pretty simple. I don't want any reviewing of policies. Oh, we'll have some meetings about it. Great. The situation is simple, Mr. Burnham. Just say these two animals are not getting out of jail. I am reversing that decision. It's not rocket science, is it? He's got to do that, don't you think?
Well, I'm sensing a bit of a pattern here, aren't you, Kev? Because in the very early days of Keir Starmer's administration, one of the first things that happened was a load of prisoners were let out. And now this is a test for Andy Burnham. I read somewhere this morning that as a new Prime Minister, the number of decisions that come at you, it's a bit like having a fire hose directed.
That's right, a fire hose in the mouth, yeah.
Yeah, and you can kind of imagine that, can't you? And these are not pleasant decisions, but I don't think they're particularly hard ones. You know, the British public needs to have the reassurance that very, very serious crimes, particularly those against police officers, which are kind of exemplary, they demand exemplary sentencing, because if we have a position where people can just attack police officers at will and treat them in the way that happened in that absolutely heinous crime, everything disintegrates. You know, you have to hold police officers at a higher level of protection. And these people have just not served very long at all, have they? And we've got to get to a point where a very, very serious crime like this that ends in a horrible death results in a very, very, very serious sentence. And you know, frankly, a few years just
6 years. 6 years.
Doesn't cut it at all.
There he is, Isabel, if you're watching on TV, folks. There he is with his wife, now his widow, of course. Now, the reason, there are all sorts of reasons that this particular horror, this case, struck such a chord across the country. One is the sheer brutality
of his murder, dragged down a country lane, attached to a rope. His ankles got caught in the tow rope, and they just kept on driving. His uniform came off, his skin came off. It's absolutely horrific. The only reason this happened was that those 3 animals were suspected of stealing a quad bike. A dedicated copper, Andrew, said although he was stated to go off work that day to go on his honeymoon, he just got married. He said, I'll stick around because I think I can solve this. So he stayed to solve the crime of the quad bike that these thugs had stolen, and the rest is appalling history. So that next day he was going to go on his honeymoon. He just got married. Just a horrific case. And I think this was a brilliant opportunity for Andy Burnham to say, no ifs, no buts, I've looked at this case, these 2 don't get out. Why didn't he say that? When he was interviewed there, he wasn't ready for that. You could tell he was totally unprepared. That's not good enough. He's going to have to get used to this.
Exactly. I mean, he was blustering. I could tell that by looking at him. You know, he didn't know the details of the case. Of course, we don't expect him to be on top of every detail of every case, but this is how it is. If you want the top job, I'm afraid you come under instant pressure all day, every day, and all night too. That is the test, and it's not difficult to, even if you're not on top of the detail, to say, you know, I need to look into this case further. You'll appreciate I've only just come into office, but as a general rule, I want to see in our country serious criminals serving serious time for their crimes. You know, that actually isn't that difficult to say, is it? We've just done it here.
Well, later in the show, we're going to talk to Peter Blexley, former Met Police detective, about this, and we're also going to talk to the chair of the Thames Valley Police Federation. That's the cops' union. Thames Valley is where Andrew worked. And let me tell you, Isabel, the coppers, his friends and colleagues, who knew him well, are absolutely seethingly mad about this. They're just, what was said to us, they just said, we're not having this. We are not going to let this happen. So Burnham has got something to deal with as a matter of urgency, and just blustering, oh, I'll have a review of the policy. Not good enough. We'll let him off early days, but he's got to be more decisive than that. Let's now move on to Andy's fabulous new administration, a new kind of politics. Right, it's 2 days, basically. He came here on Monday. He waltzed into Downing Street, 10 Downing Street, unchallenged, unburdened, untroubled by even a hint of democracy. We have been subjected to a bizarre communist coup d'etat. It really is strange, not democratic at all. But anyway, since then, promises, promises. So these are the questions. Well, these are the points. He didn't cost the VAT cut on energy bills that will save lucky Brits a whole 86p a week, 2 pints of milk. He didn't cost that. That's going to cost 850 million pounds. Where's he going to find that money? He didn't cost Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary's £2 cap on bus fares. That'll set taxpayers back £450 million. Where's he going to find that money? This is not costed. This is not funded. He's just saying stuff that he can't actually do. Of course, he also said that on his opening speech in Downing Street on Monday that he would end rough sleeping with £340 million. 2 points about that. I could give you £340 billion and you wouldn't end rough sleeping. So that's a stupid promise to make. And secondly, where's he going to find the £340 million? We've just run through there considerably over £1 billion worth of commitments that this Prime Minister has made that he has no idea how he's going to fund, where he's going to get the money to pay for. This is a very poor start. The wheels are coming off the Burnham bus already.
Well, I'm honestly just not that surprised that the wheels are coming off this soon. You know, it's very different running the whole country to running Manchester. And whilst he's done some good things in Manchester, he's also had some colossal failings, one of which has been ending rough sleeping, which, as everyone probably now knows, has not ended under Andy
got
Burnham.
worse, didn't it?
It's actually got worse. I can't understand why he would have made this promise in relation to the whole country. It's completely unachievable. I think it's a great ambition to have, but you're never going to do this while you've practically got open borders and you've got people pouring through illegally, whether by boat or by in the back of lorries, and they don't have homes to go to and they've got no paperwork. So no wonder they end up on the streets. You only have to look at what's going on in central London to see the scale of the challenge to end rough sleeping. And the reality is, as Andy Burnham himself knows, a lot of rough sleepers are almost impossible to house because they are so very, very troubled on so many levels.
A lot of them want to be rough sleepers. That's what these do-gooders never factor that in. They'll go, we'll get them off the streets. Well, the problem is I got some experience of homelessness. I did a feature on it for Talk years ago, and I did actually spend the night out on the streets. It wasn't a very pleasant night, but I spoke to a lot of homeless people, a lot of rough sleepers, and about 50% of them wanted no part of the government or local councils giving them a home. They wanted to be rough sleepers. They never factor that in.
That's it. And, I would say the majority of those, certainly the majority of Brits that are on the street are have addiction problems or very, very serious mental health problems, usually both, actually. There's far too many veterans on our streets. I did some work on this on the Strand, pretty much this time last year, actually, was very dismayed by the number of vets that it's quite easy to find them. Whilst we're bringing over people on boats and allowing them to live in luxury, we have people who've put their lives on the line for our country who are rough sleeping. They, in my opinion, should be the absolute priority for every bit of help that the state can give. Now, if Andy Burnham had stood up there and said, you know what, I'm going to end rough sleeping among veterans on our street because this is a national disgrace, that I think would have been achievable. There might be a handful of exceptions of people that just will not be housed. But I think that he could have achieved that. But he set himself up for a really totemic fail on that front.
He didn't think it through. Listen, I've got to get you on this before you go, Isabel, because I know you're very energised about this story. We did cover it yesterday, but I want to get your thoughts. This was the bizarre story of the Islamic event in Suffolk, a weekend event. 15,000 Muslims attended. The police announced that there'd been a serious terrorist threat against this event, and to the extent that everybody who was attending it was sent home or too dangerous. 12 people were arrested on suspicion of a terrorist plot to cause carnage at this event. The Prime Minister, then Prime Minister Keir Starmer, ploughed in saying, I will not tolerate this kind of threat to Muslims. Shabana Mahmood chipped in. Apparently, we're never allowed to speculate about ongoing legal cases, but if you're the Prime Minister or the Home Secretary, then you can. So she chipped in saying, oh, congratulations to the police for foiling this evil plot to kill, blah, blah, blah. All 12 of those suspects arrested have subsequently been released, with the police announcing that there is no evidence, or was never any evidence, of any kind of terrorist plot whatsoever. 4 or 5 of them have been are still under investigation for separate potential offences, but nothing to do with terrorism or a terrorist plot. This, I think, is very disturbing. I mean, what was going on there? Why are the Prime Minister and the police and the Home Secretary so quick to go in there? Oh, terrible, terrible, terrible. They didn't say anything, for example, when those Moroccans rioted up and down the Edgware Road after their football team lost in the World Cup. They didn't say anything about that at all, probably because they're Muslims, and if they condemn that, they might lose a few Muslim votes, right?
I mean, I feel really strongly about this story, and it shouldn't be swept under the carpet. I want everybody to know about it. This was a completely faked terror plot, supposedly by the far right. It was a fictional plot against Muslims that allowed Shabana Mahmood to come out on her high horse, sanctimoniously saying, you know, our Muslims, as she always pronounces it, should be able to gather in peace. You know, there was no threat to life or limb at that event. By the way, these types of gatherings are very frowned on in many countries other than the UK. Other countries take quite a dim view of this sort of gathering, but being the UK, you know, live and let live, we allow this to happen. But there's nothing terrorist about somebody who is licensed to have a drone, putting a drone above such an event. There's nothing terrorist about people wanting to record exactly what's going on at these events, just as you might with any other festival. I'm sure people would be, you know, interested to see what's going on if there was a mass Christian festival somewhere in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. And yet the police reaction to this was wildly over the top. Homes were raided, things were seized. More will come out about the detail of that. I think that those who were unfairly targeted and detained, quite rightly, are probably looking at legal action over the way they were treated. And what on earth was Keir Starmer doing, wading in a way that they just don't do, the Home Secretary and Prime Minister don't do in other circumstances. It's all about virtue signalling and how very convenient to fake a far-right plot just at a time when somebody has been charged from apparently the far left over the murder of a Reform spokeswoman.
Yeah, it's all very murky. It really is. There was no terrorist plot, and yet headlines in all the papers, Prime Minister, Home Secretary speaking, the police crowing about what a fabulous operation was, and before actually having to say, actually, no terrorist plot whatsoever, everybody released. Absolutely disgraceful. Good to talk to you, Isabel, as always. Thank you so much. Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor there. We're going to go straight to break. We'll get an overview on the first fabulous 48 hours of Andy Burnham's King Andy's reign from Dr. Alan Mendoza next, so stick around.
Some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's go over to my next guest. He's the Chief Advisor on Global Affairs to Reform UK, Dr. Alan Mendoza. Welcome, Alan.
Hello, Kevin.
Good to have you on the show. You'll be thrilled. You probably noted already as a global affairs expert that our new Foreign Secretary, Ed Miliband, wasted no time in climbing onto a jet. He's in India currently, as we speak, of course, reaffirming Britain's commitment to de-escalation in the Middle East, de-escalation in the Iran war, in which we play no part whatsoever. So we'll take that on board. But what's your assessment so far after 2 days of Andy Burnham, King Andy's reign? I estimate that he's made something like £1,700,000 worth of spending commitments with no idea how to find the money, that being £340 million to eradicate rough sleeping. Won't eradicate it for a kick-off. £450 million for a £2 bus fare cap. And, of course, £850 million to take VAT off our energy bills, saving us all, aren't we lucky, a whole 86p a week. That adds up to nearly £1,700,000. He hasn't costed it. He has no idea to fund it. This is fantasy politics. This is a bad start. The wheels are already falling off the Burnham bus, aren't they?
Well, it's funny you mentioned buses.
He's obsessed.
He's obsessed. He did his video, which channeled. I called it "Small Town Mayoral Energy." You know, look at our local initiative, our local bus. Here's our local celeb. Just giving. I mean, it's extraordinary. This is the British Prime Minister, and you know, he appears to be treating government like a joke, deciding to say one thing, then rolling it back the next minute. I mean, the first time they say it's a tragedy, the second time it's a farce. Starmer cleared the tragedy, and Burnham is now the farce in terms of how this is going to operate. But the wheels will fall off. Of course they'll fall off, because you can't govern in this way. You can't govern in a fundamentally unserious way. And if you're suggesting you're going to, for example, follow the fiscal rules, and then every second minute you're, piling on uncosted, initiatives, the city and others are going to have you and going to say, well, how are you going to fund it? Neither you're going to borrow, in which case there's going to be a financial crisis, because we know the markets won't tolerate it, will not allow Britain to continue borrowing beyond our means, given we're already so heavily overextended in that way, or you're going to see, kind of swinging tax rises, and we're just waiting to see which of these will come.
It's going to have to, I mean, if he's to emerge from this with any credibility, he's going to have to raise our taxes. Otherwise, he's just made nearly £2 billion worth of announcements that he literally cannot afford. This is Andy speaking earlier today. Alan, don't get too excited, but about his new policies.
I will always be honest with the public. It's my style. This week, the 3 policies I've announced, ending rough sleeping, the bus cap we're announcing today, and the removal of VAT off electricity bills are all fully funded. And that's the way I will go. And people will say, well, how? I've reprioritised. The public's priority is reducing cost of living pressures. And that's what I'm doing. I'm taking a difficult look at some of the things that the government was committed to, digital ID being one example, and reprioritising. And I think that's what people would expect me to do coming into this job.
Well, there he is, Alan, among his beloved buses, but saying that all these policies are funded. He said, I'm going to be honest with the public, new kind of politics, I'm going to be honest. Well, be honest with us. Tell us how you funded them. He hasn't funded them. I say that's a lie.
Well, it's bizarre, because we were told they weren't funded by Darren Jones, who, of course, had been Chief Secretary of the Treasury. He said, Well, sorry to tell you this, Mr. Prime Minister, but we didn't actually fund the digital ID plan we were going to put in. So you need to come up with the money. So we were told by a Labour Party former minister that this was the case, that it wasn't funded. So for him to trot it out as if it's true is simply extraordinary. We know that hasn't been funded. So he's lied on that score, absolutely. And what a way to start, by saying I'm going to be honest.
And then lying.
But it's so obviously disprovable. If you're going to lie, make it a lie that nobody can disprove so easily.
It really is not good. Well, now, you're the Global Affairs spokesman for Reform UK, so let's get your verdict, Alan, on our new Foreign Secretary. Ed Miliband he was bought off with that job. What do you do with awkward ministers that you don't want to continue in their current role because they're screwing everything up, as in Ed Miliband as Net Zero Secretary? The city and in fact, Labour politicians made it clear that they would not accept Ed Miliband as Chancellor, even though he coveted that job. So what do you always do with a difficult minister? You buy them off with the glamour job. Foreign Secretary, have tickets, will fly, first class, best accommodation all over the world. He's immediately, old Ed, gone to India, as I said, reaffirming our commitment, apparently, to de-escalation of the Iranian war. If that is a portent of things to come from our Foreign Secretary, it is going to be one long stream of pointless hot air.
Yeah, I think you've just summed it up. And I think it's terrible that the Foreign Secretary position appears to be a consolation prize now for politicians who we don't know what to do with. I mean, his predecessor, Yvette Cooper, was also given it as a consolation prize when she was shunted out of the Home Office because she'd failed to stem the migration crisis. And of course, she's now found her level ever lower. She's been sort of plummeting down the cabinet ranks in that way. But it's incredible. This is a very important job. It is a job which represents the UK and its position overseas. It's about promoting our national interests, protecting them. It is about building alliances. It is not about grandstanding over sort of hot air issues of the kind that his predecessor, but one, David Lammy, specialised in. Another failure in the role. And the real problem is we've had 10 foreign secretaries in 10 years now.
Is that right?
It's a job that's been terribly treated by successive governments. And it's no wonder that Britain's stock has plummeted globally because, of course, we don't have the people running this for any length of time who know what they're doing. And as a result, we're seen as a laughingstock around the world.
And I think also, Alan, that, Burnham, obviously, at one point during his purge of the Starmerites, retaining just two or three of them, who clearly were treacherous in the demise of Starmer, started collaborating with Burnham. Let's get rid of that guy, and then you can give me a job in your new administration. Obviously, Miliband being one of them. Obviously, Burnham at one point said, what the hell are we going to do with Ed? Oh, let's give him foreign. Now, that's a very unthinking appointment, because the most important relationship that the Foreign Secretary ever has is with the President of the United States of America. It's very important that those two people get on. It's impossible to overstate the level of Donald Trump's contempt for Ed Miliband. Those two are not going to get on. So our special relationship, so heinously damaged by Keir Starmer, I think is going to get worse. Don't forget, Ed Miliband was the person who led the charge against allowing America to use our air bases when the Iran war first started. Problems that caused. So Ed Miliband and Donald Trump is a non-starter.
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, the Americans made clear that they wouldn't welcome him as a foreign secretary before this appointment. Now, while it's, of course, right, the British Prime Minister makes decisions based on domestic considerations in terms of what's good for this country, it does seem curious that our main ally has so set against somebody who then appears as foreign secretary. And you wonder what kind of message the Prime Minister is sending by putting him in there, and indeed Wes Streeting as defence secretary, given that Streeting has also been very difficult about the war in Iran and, of course, on relations with Israel, which the White House is in a very different place on. So I'm wondering now if this is a concerted effort by the new Prime Minister to determine a foreign policy that puts us against America in various places. And although he himself has seemingly backed the use of bases, I don't know where, when the next crisis emerges, what side Britain will be on, which is quite extraordinary if you think about it.
It really is, and Ed Miliband is going to be a problem on that score. He really is. Alan, excellent to have you on the show. Please come on again very soon. Dr. Alan Mendoza, their Chief Advisor on Global Affairs to Reform UK. Next up, we're going to talk to former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. We're going to go back to the horrific case, the horrific murder of PC Andrew Harper, and the government's apparent plans to release 2 of his killers. Outrageous. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Big story of the day is the potential or the soon release, the imminent release of the two of the thugs who killed poor PC Andrew Harper, dragging him down the road on the back of their car. The murder was brutal, dragged down the road. His uniform pulled off and his skin pulled off. Sorry to inflict the details on you, but it's important that you understand the sheer horror of this murder. Poor guy was going on his honeymoon the next day. He just got married. His wife has released a statement, and so has his mother. Now, before we go over to Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley, Tristan has sent us a WhatsApp on the early prison release scheme.
It's been a couple of days, and now he's got to make an important decision relating to this PC Harper. I mean, if he cannot change the law when he's the Prime Minister to keep this absolute scum locked up, I'm sorry, but this government is absolutely sickening, in my view. Absolutely sickening.
Well said, Tristan. I think a lot of people would agree with you there. Let's go over to Met Police Detective, former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Peter, welcome. Now, before we discuss this alleged imminent release of these 2 tow rags who killed poor PC Andrew Harper, how the grieving relatives of Andrew must have laughed when they learned of West Streeting and Shabana Mahmood cracking hilarious jokes about Justice Secretary Alex Norris, who is, of course, in charge of the prison release scheme. West Streeting laughing to Shabana over a few drinks. Ha ha, he's the enemy now. Her going, no, he's not. Anyway, they've both apologised because they were caught on mic, and the Prime Minister has condemned their incredibly disappointing remarks. Going to play the footage of them joking. It's not particularly clear, but I've just explained what they're saying. So here they are, jokesters, the comedy double act, West Streeting and Shabana Mahmood.
Who are you?
No, he's the enemy now, isn't he? Justice Shabana.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I thought of poor Andrew's family, his grieving relatives, his widow, his mother. They must have loved to see what fun our new cabinet were having at the expense of the early prison release scheme. Your thoughts on that, Peter, and also just the sheer horror of the fact that these two toe rags are going to be released after that horrific murder after just 6 years in jail. Your thoughts?
West Streeting and Shabana Mahmood are clearly both cretins. There is nothing humorous in the slightest about a criminal justice system that is so failing the people it's supposed to serve, namely us and victims of crime, of course, primarily, that they find humour in this matter. There is absolutely nothing funny whatsoever in the early release roulette, which is currently being played by this government and has been played by previous governments, all of whom have fundamentally failed to build enough prisons and to reform the criminal justice system so that it works properly. Now, with regards to the potential early release of these two verminous pieces of garbage that were 2 of 3 who were involved in the killing of PC Andrew Harper, and rest his soul, it is, of course, shocking, but it is symptomatic of the wider rot within the criminal justice system, in particular, the prison service. Bear with me a moment, if you will, because I believe I have a solution. I'm sure the public, and perhaps even prisoners themselves, would be a lot happier if you were handed a sentence of 10 years, you actually served 10 years. Likewise, if you got 5 years, you served 5 years, so that a sentence actually meant something.
Yep.
And that not only could the prison service plot and plan that person's period of detention, but the prisoner themselves would know exactly when they were going to be released and could work their way towards a more comfortable regime by complying completely with the prison system, so that they could have potentially a television, their own clothes, some better food, some training, some education. They might leave prison with a vocational training so they could go into work afterwards, because long prison sentences work. Short prison sentences don't. So my plan would be to abolish all jail sentences under 4 years, but they would be replaced by very strident society sanctions. Things like litter picking, railing painting, wall painting, many, many other types of things. Mm-hmm. And if you breached any of those orders or you failed to comply in any way, shape or form, you would go directly to prison for 4 years. There would be clarity.
And then serve it. Now, Albert Bowes and Jesse Cole are the two thugs who were jailed for 13 years in 2020. They will get out, if all goes according to plan, in September after serving just 6 years. Earlier today, Andy Burnham, I think, was caught on the hop here. He was asked what he intended to do about this. This is what he had to say.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release. Of course, others involved have potentially been identified. But I've spoken to the new Justice Secretary. We will review the policy together and make further statements in due course.
I don't think he knew what he was talking about there, Peter, but here's what I think he should have said. Look, we've looked at this and we have decided right now and here that these two will not be released. How difficult is that? The Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, new guy in the job, and the Prime Minister, they should just announce we're not going to release these people.
Well, it didn't take very long for the new Prime Minister to start floundering over issues, clearly which he hasn't been properly briefed upon. Of course, the driver, who received a 16-year sentence, once again woefully inadequate for the seriousness of the crime that he committed, he will at some point be eligible for parole. In other words, a form of early release. So Burnham's got it wrong. Bungling Burnham gets it wrong very early into his premiership. These sentences were woefully inadequate. The early release, which potentially may happen, is absolutely scandalous and a deep, deep stain on the memory of heroic PC Andrew Harper. And it just goes to show what a mess the criminal justice system is in.
Yeah, now, Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper's heartbroken mother, Debbie Adlam, said that this outrage, the releasing of the two of the thugs who killed him, is an insult to her courageous son's memory. And his poor widow, Lizzie Harper, now an MBE, she said, she issued a long statement, but this is how it starts. It has taken me years to rebuild a life that was torn apart in a matter of moments, years to pick up the pieces left behind by three men whose actions robbed Andrew of his life and stole our future. Now, once again, politicians are making decisions from behind a desk that will have real and lasting consequences for victims' families like mine. Poor Lizzie, poor heartbroken Debbie, his mum. It's outrageous, Peter. Now, before you go, can I quickly get you on another police issue, which I think is important? Now, we've learned from the initial stages of the court case the legal case against the suspect accused of murdering Anne Widdecombe. Now, we've heard from the court that Anne Widdecombe was hit 21 times on the head with a hammer, and that murder, that killing, was caught on her security cameras. Why, then, did Devon and Cornwall Police let it be known that this could have been a domestic accident, she could have fallen over, or it could have been a burglary that went wrong? They apparently informed the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, that it was the latter. They think it was a burglary that went wrong. They clearly knew that she'd been hit on the head many times with a hammer. It was on film. What were Devon and Cornwall Police playing at?
Well, I will, of course, not allude to the facts or the evidence in the case. I will keep my comments strictly to Devon and Cornwall's media and therefore public communications. I take huge, huge issue with somebody describing a crime as a burglary gone wrong. Somebody tell me how a burglary can ever go right. Burglary is a disgusting crime. It is the invasion of a person's very private space, their home, and it often leaves deep, deep mental scars on people who have suffered such an abominable crime. In 21st century Britain, sadly, if you are a victim of a domestic burglary, in all likelihood, you will not have a police officer attend, a detective will not come and investigate, a scenes of crimes officer will not come round and look for potential forensic evidence. You'll be left with the insult of a crime reference number. And therein lies so much of what is currently wrong with British policing.
The bizarre deception that Devon and Cornwall police imposed on an unsuspecting nation after the tragic murder of Anne Widdecombe. We need to find out what the hell they were thinking, because it's really bad what they did. They just oh, could have been a burglary gone wrong, or she might have fallen over. They knew what had happened. In effect, I think the question we need to ask Devon and Cornwall police were you deliberately lying to the public, and if so, why? So many questions, Peter, no answers as yet, but really good to talk to you as always. Thank you so much, mate. That's Peter Blexley, former Met Police detective. And next up, Samara Gill will be in the studio. Demands are reaching a crescendo that Angela Rayner hands back the 17 grand payoff she received after being forced to resign in disgrace as housing secretary 7 months ago. She's got the job back now, so surely she can't keep that compensation, can she? Compensation she should never have got in the first place. We'll discuss that after these messages. Stay where you are.
Some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lord John Redwood joins me after the 5 o'clock news. We'll go through some of the big stories with John. But in the meantime, in the studio is Talk's ace reporter, Samara Gill. Welcome, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Great to be here.
Good to have you on the show. Now, what I want to talk about is Angela Rayner. Now, Andy Burnham says that he's going to preside over a new kind of politics. They all say this. Every Prime Minister is decent, get rid of sleaze. Remember Starmer said that while wearing a suit that he'd been given for free, 20 grand's worth of free clothes from Labour Dr. Feelgood Wahid Ali. So he didn't cure sleaze in Westminster. They all say, I'm going to clean it up. It's going to be a new clean kind of politics. Well, Burnham's no exception to that rule. He's got a very easy way to prove that this is going to be a different kind of politics, and that is to make sure to demand that Angela Rayner hands back the £17,000 payoff that she should never have been given, actually, after being forced to resign in disgrace as Housing Secretary 7 months ago. This was, of course, because she dodged stamp duty on her swish new seafront apartment in Sussex. Woman of the people. Now, you know, the fact that she was forced to quit in disgrace means she should never have got a payoff anyway, but that's the way it goes in Westminster. You know, nothing succeeds like failure. So she's got this 17 grand. She's now been given that job back by Burnham. She has to pay back this £17,000, and we want proof. Don't just say it. We want to know that she has paid that money back. Otherwise, it's quite clear Andy Burnham isn't going to preside over a new kind of politics. He will preside over the same old Westminster sleaze.
No, you're totally right. This looks way less like accountability and much more like political rehabilitation with what he's been doing with his cabinet. And she should absolutely pay it back. But I don't think she's going to, Kev. Honestly, I think she feels that she's entitled to it. She feels actually clearly that she was wronged in the first place, losing her job. I don't even think she feels resentment over that, in my opinion. Only resentment about maybe the fact that she lost the cushy car and the nice security and the good life that came with being a front bencher. But the thing is, during her time on the back benches, she was busy making £70,000 off 10 hours of work with all her private speaking commitments. And yes, you know, I do agree with what we maybe said off camera, which is that she's entitled to do that. It's perfectly legal, but it doesn't make it right.
It's not a good look. I agree with that.
It doesn't make it right. £10,000 she got for a 2-hour speaking engagement in March. That's straight after she lost her job. Another 20 grand for a 2-hour speech for Property Mark, and a 20 grand for 3-hour speech for a bank. So she didn't exactly spend her time on the backbenches quietly reflecting. And according to her own declarations, she literally made this 70 grand while she was lamenting her...
So I'll tell you what, I was just watching her walk down Downing Street in her sailor's uniform. When did she join the Navy?
I know. Oh my gosh, she was. This is her putting on her power suit.
Oh God, and, it's pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that she actually looked pretty good.
That's all right, but I mean,
but I just think.
Well,
that...
here's the deal generally, right? So he got rid of, I think it was 11 of Starmerite cabinet secretaries.
Yeah,
right?
and to be fair, some of the really bad ones.
Yeah, but the point is, they are all down for a total of more than £200,000 worth of payoffs. So they get these jobs. I think they get £140,000 a year as a cabinet secretary, something like that. They get fired. And then they get a massive, great payoff. But it's not like you or me getting fired, because all they're doing is being reduced back, if you like, to being an MP, and they'll have to struggle by on £99,000 a year plus generous expenses. So they get £99,000 a year, and then they get this massive, great payoff because they are deemed not good enough to carry on being cabinet secretaries. So, generally speaking, obviously, it's absolutely imperative, I think, that Angela Rayner pays back her payoff. But none of them should get this money. We are being taken for a ride, and I don't think that Burnham and all these Westminster bubble types have any idea just how disgusted we taxpayers are by the fact they take our money and they divide it between themselves with their snouts in the trough. It's repulsive.
They do, and it's all just political, you know, ball games for them. It's nothing about the country. I mean, if you remember when she got quizzed on Sky News about how many houses she'd been able to build during her time as housing minister, and she couldn't really answer, she was woefully incompetent at the job. But of course, Andy, who is way more interested in pleasing his party than actually pleasing the country, has made sure that she gets her job back. That's some sort of backroom deal that's happened, I can assure you.
Yeah.
And
Same for Healy.
yeah, exactly. And it is really, really
Same for
wrong.
Streeting.
Same for Streeting. It is all about him getting his party behind him, and he can give a toss, in my opinion, what the rest of the country thinks. I mean, they are allowing him to pass through all these feel-good, candy-esque policies so that he can
announce them. He can't afford them, but he's announcing them.
No, absolutely not.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Listen, folks, I want to know what you think. Should Angela Rayner pay back the £17,000 compensation payoff that she got when she had to resign, forced to resign as Housing Secretary 7 months ago because she didn't pay her stamp duty? Should she pay that money back? 0344 499 1000. John Redwood next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we'll go over to former Conservative Cabinet Minister Lord John Redwood. Before we do that, let's listen to a voice note. This is Bridget on the release of PC Andrew Harper's killers.
I'm the mother, Kevin, of a serving police officer. I am sickened to the back teeth today to hear that those savages that killed that young policeman, PC Harper, are allowed out, having done little or no time. But of course, I understand the community where the perpetrators came from deserve extra protection, apparently. I'm also sickened by Andy Burnham because he's no better than Starmer. He did the same when he got into office, and Burnham is Starmer Mark II. And as for Wes Streeting and Shabana Mahmood making light of prisoners that have been left out, my God, these people are just unbelievable, Kevin.
Well, I couldn't have put it better myself. Excellent voice note there. Let's go over to my next guest. He is Lord John Redwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister. Welcome, John.
Hello there.
Now, first of all, I'd like to get your thoughts on the impending release, the imminent release of these two thugs who participated, they're done for manslaughter in the killing, the murder of poor PC Andrew Harper, dragged for a mile down a country lane, just literally brutally killed. When he was found, when his body was found, I make no apologies for giving people the details because it's important. The people who found his body thought that they'd found the carcass of a skinned deer. That's how bad his injuries were. His poor wife, he was going on his honeymoon the next day, just got married. So it's just a tragic story. These two guys who are going to get released under the early release scheme got 13 years for manslaughter in 2020. They're being released after 6 years. Andrew Harper's mother says this is an insult to her son's memory. I think we can all agree with her there. Lizzie Harper, Andrew's poor widow, she said she's got an MBE now because she campaigned, she says, with the Conservatives and Labour to get this new initiative called Harper's Law, which was to instigate immediate severe sentences on anyone who harmed or killed people in the emergency services, particularly coppers, of course. She said, it's taken me years to rebuild my life that was torn apart in a matter of moments, years to pick up the pieces left behind by three men whose actions robbed Andrew of his life and stole our future. It breaks your heart. She now says that these people who make these decisions behind desks, you know, that will have, they don't realise that they have real and lasting consequences for the victims' families like mine. Now, Andy Burnham was challenged on this earlier today. Frankly, he clearly wasn't ready for the question. He said that it was unacceptable that these two thugs were being released. But here is the rest of what he had to say.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release. Of course, others involved have potentially been identified, but I've spoken to the new Justice Secretary. We will review the policy together and make further statements in due course.
Well, John, isn't this a perfect opportunity for Andy Burnham to show his mettle, to get together with the new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, and just announce we've decided that these two are not getting out on early release? Why doesn't he just do that? He doesn't need to review the policy. Don't let these two people out.
It was a very weak and disappointing statement, as you say. We were all appalled by what happened, and there was great cross-party support for toughening the responses to these dreadful crimes and to improving the law. And now this Prime Minister, who's meant to be very touchy-feely and understands public mood, talks as if he's not in charge. He is the boss. He can talk to his law officers and find a way of doing this. So why didn't he say that is what he would do? And while he's about it, what about all those serious sexual offenders they're releasing too early, where their victims are still in those same local communities? They're terrified about what's happening, and the government doesn't seem to be interested or take it seriously at all. Come on, Mr. Burnham, if you really are changing for the better. This should be top of your agenda. Tell us how you're going to stop it.
Yeah, and when, oh when, John, will this government or any government announce what is quite clearly an urgent necessity? More jails. Build more jails. Stop letting out paedophiles, rapists and killers and drug dealers, and build more prisons so you don't have to release them early. We are trapped in a sort of cycle of insanity now.
Well, indeed, we need to build more prisons. I mean, the last government built, I think, 13,000 new prison places, but too many old prisons closed at the same time. We need to get ahead of that and have more prison capacity. But in the meantime, surely the quickest way of getting the capacity so that you don't need all these early releases is tackle those thousands of foreign prisoners that we always hear can be and should be deported. Get on with that job. Everybody would be cheering them out of the country.
Yeah, I feel so bad for Lizzie Harper and PC Harper's poor mother today, both of them issuing heartbreaking statements. His mother just saying this is an insult to my son's memory. And it is. Burnham's got to do something about this. Let's move on to, well, shall we say, the first couple of days of the reign of King Andy, for King is what he is. He's certainly not a democratically elected Prime Minister, is he? Now, I'm going to play you something here because he stands accused, quite justifiably, of announcing, he's announced something like £1,700,000 worth of initiatives right off the bat. This is what I'm going to do. He said, oh, £340 million, that's going to end rough sleeping. No, it's not. But £340 million. Where's he going to find the money? The Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, announced, oh, brilliant, yeah, we're going to put a £2 cap on bus fares. That will cost £450 million. Where is she and the Prime Minister going to find the money? Also, of course, the doozy, the £850 million to fund the proposed VAT cut on our energy bills, which, whoop-de-doo, will save us all 86p a week. But where is he going to find that £850 million? It's certainly not from cancelling the digital ID scheme, because as Darren Jones helpfully informed us on Twitter, that was never funded. So that's nearly £1,700,000 worth of commitments that he just can't fund. Nevertheless, this is what he said earlier. Watch this, John.
I will always be honest with the public. It's my style. This week, the three policies I've announced, ending rough sleeping, the bus cap we're announcing today, and the removal of VAT off electricity bills are all fully funded. And that's the way I will go. And people will say, well, how? I've reprioritised. The public's priority is reducing cost of living pressures. And that's what I'm doing. I'm taking a difficult look at some of the things that the government was committed to, digital ID being one example, and reprioritising. And I think that's what people would expect me to do coming into this job.
Well, my impression of him being honest there is he's not being honest. He hasn't funded these policies, and there he is staring us in the face and telling us they are funded. They're not. He's talking there about the digital ID scheme. Darren Jones said that was never funded. So he has not funded these policies that he's announced. I would suggest, John, that this is a terrible start and the wheels are coming off the Burnham bus already.
Yes, I think it is appalling. And, you know, I so want my country to be better governed. I would have been delighted if he'd made some announcements like cutting some taxes that were properly funded, because I would then say, well done, that's exactly what we need to get confidence and growth back in this economy. But he's done the opposite. He's undermining confidence in his new government, and he is misleading the public. It may be just complete sloppiness. This man doesn't seem to understand. When you're Prime Minister, you are responsible and you have to make sure that things happen. You have thousands of civil servants and dozens of ministers to help you. So if you want to cut a tax, you sit down with the Chancellor of the Exchequer and you get him to identify how it's going to be paid for. And then you come to Parliament and make a clear statement to get your message out there and to show that you've done it properly. He runs away from any proper accountability because it's sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. What do the polls tell me that would be popular? Oh, I know. Let's take energy bills down a little bit, although they're going to go up by more than that anyway. How do I pay for it? Well, there's this idea. Doesn't work, Prime Minister. You didn't do the homework. You didn't ask the civil servants. You didn't get cross-examined in Parliament.
It's incredibly bad politics to say, I know I'm going to spend £850 million taking VAT off people's energy bills. So far, so good. Then you discover that that will save all of us all of 86p a week. You know, I've got a better idea. Don't make that announcement. It's pointless. Nobody gives a damn about 86p a week. Why saddle yourself with an £850 million bill for that putrid little offering? It's useless, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, any tax cut is better than no tax cut after all.
86p a week, John. Come on, 86p a week in this day and age, that's nothing. It's a waste of time.
But what is wrong about it is pretending you can pay for it without putting up some other tax or without borrowing more money. And exactly the same with one of his other proposals, which was that he was going to do some jiggery-pokery with shifting things from grants to loans in the overseas aid budget, but he hadn't squared that with his cabinet member responsible. And so she said, oh, we haven't worked the details out yet. In other words, they haven't reached an agreement. Again, it's sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. Think it through. Do the homework, as Margaret Thatcher said. You do that first, then face the music. If you've done your homework and you're proud of your policy, then going to Parliament sells the policy. If you haven't done the homework and you go to Parliament, you get shredded. And that's why he's running away from Parliament.
Yeah, he tells us he's got a plan. He's got no plan. He's come into office with no plan and no funding for any of his flagship policies, which are ridiculous. I'm glad you brought out foreign aid, because the one area where the government seems to have magically found, we're told, £10 billion is to add to the £8.3 billion we already spend on foreign aid. So that bill is going to go up to £18.3 billion. In other words, he swiftly found 10 billion quid to give to foreign countries, but he hasn't found any money for us, we poor, long-suffering Brits yet. This is just, it's sickening, it's nauseating.
I mean, this is outrageous. I suspect he'll slip from saying that is a firm promise to saying it's some kind of pledge or intention. But if he wants to be in touch with the public, he should remember his own slogan. It's all about the cost of living here. People's number one priority is not to give more overseas aid. It is to get those energy prices down and to get the economy moving and to have more jobs and to start getting rid of the jobs tax, which has done such huge damage, switching us over from having relatively low young people unemployment in the United Kingdom to having even higher youth unemployment than they got on the continent. And that is all to do with excess taxes. So, Mr. Burnham, wake up. Your past government did so much damage. You were meant to be better. You were meant to bring change. Why don't you start doing the numbers and finding out where you can save big money in the net zero budgets and in the benefits budgets, which would then allow you to have a growth policy and some tax cuts and to allow people in work to be better off.
Yeah, he says that he's not in favour of crude cuts to the welfare budget. That budget is an obscene, grotesque £350 billion a year and rising. They think within about 5 years it'll be £420 billion a year. He's against crude cuts to that budget, to that bill. What he means there, John, is he's against any cuts to the obscene, grotesque welfare bill. This does not bode well. He is going to continue the Starmerist policy of taking money from the private sector, taxing us up to the neck, to the hilt, to fund the public sector and to fund our blossoming welfare mess, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that's spot on. And, you know, again, it's caricature politics by him. None of us want crude cuts to benefits. I, as someone who's always wanted to control public expenditure better than many governments have done, have always said you don't take it out on the disabled. If somebody is genuinely disabled,
absolutely.
we should be generous with them. But we don't want people who are given a sick note for life, who are perfectly capable of getting a job and would be better off in a job. And there's been an explosion in people getting away with it and getting their claims approved, which is proving a huge burden on the state. And it's not even good for them, because if you worked with them and helped them into a job, that would be a double win. They would have a better life and the taxpayer would save a lot of money.
Last question, John. The purge of the Starmerites, I think it was 11 cabinet secretaries have got their marching orders. They will share among them about £200,000 worth of payoffs. I don't think, I think the public find that disgusting. You know, these poor people currently earning about 140 grand a year will be reduced to a mere £99,000 a year plus generous expenses. They don't need a payoff. I asked Graham Stringer, the Labour MP, about that. He said, well, that's the system. I said, well, that system needs to change. But let's park the general picture of how these cabinet secretaries are going to pay off, and let's focus on one of them. Now, Andy Burnham says that he's going to preside over a new kind of politics. You know, all new prime ministers say this. He's going to clean up Westminster, no more sleaze. Now, he has brought back to his cabinet as Housing Secretary, in her former role, Angela Rayner. Now, you will recall, John, as my audience will, it was 7 months ago when she was forced to quit as Housing Secretary and indeed Deputy Prime Minister for not paying stamp duty on her swish new seafront apartment in Hove in Sussex. We are told she may well have paid that stamp duty bill now. Fine, OK. He's brought her back into the cabinet. But when she was forced to resign 7 months ago, I don't think she should have got this, but she got a £17,000 compensatory payoff. Now, I don't think she should have got that in the first place, because she was forced to resign in disgrace. But anyway, hey-ho, welcome to Westminster. Now she's been brought back, exactly the same job. I think if Andy Burnham wants to prove that he's presiding over a clean and wonderful new form of politics, that woman must repay that £17,000. The fact that she's pocketed it is disgusting.
No, I agree. I think there are two immediate changes you would make to what has been a common policy about people leaving government over the years. The first one is you should say that if you're thrown out for bad conduct, you don't qualify for any payment. There should be an element of punishment in losing your job, not some kind of financial bridge or financial reward. And you should definitely say that if you come back into government in a relatively short space of time after losing your job, you, of course, repay the payment for losing your job. Nobody thinks that makes any sense at all. So on two grounds, where I think you should change the policy anyway, Angela Rayner should repay. And she's not the only one with these people returning after their dismissals. We could save quite a bit of money doing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the Westminster bubble just don't understand how revolted the public are by this kind of snouts in the trough payments. You know, it's just not on. If he wants to preside over a new form of politics, he could make a good gesture by saying Angela Rayner's paying back that 17 grand.
Yeah.
Haven't heard anything about it yet, John. But listen, got to move on. But great to have you on the show, as always. Thank you so much for your time. Lord John Redwood, former Conservative Cabinet Minister there. Next up, very important, we're going to talk to Eileen O'Connor. She is the chair of the Thames Valley Police Federation. That's the sort of union of police officers in Thames Valley. These are the friends and colleagues of PC Andrew Harper, whose killers will be released in September unless something can be done about it. I don't think I'm overstating it to say that the level of fury felt by Andrew's friends and colleagues in Thames Valley is off the scale. They are seething, and I don't blame them. Do you? Let me know what you think about this. Those two tow rags being let out. 0344 499 1000. Eileen O'Connor next. Stay tuned.
some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Top of the morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. My next guest is the chair of the Thames Valley Police Federation, in effect the union of the police officers who work in the Thames Valley area, where, of course, PC Andrew Harper worked. So, in a way, Aileen represents the friends and colleagues of that poor copper who was killed so brutally all those years ago. So let's go over to Aileen right away. She's the chair, as I say, of Thames Valley Police Federation. Welcome, Aileen.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Listen, before I get your thoughts, I've been reading the interviews and the quotes given by Andrew Harper's mother, Debbie Adlam, and his poor widow, Lissy Harper. I'll just read a couple of them. It just brings home why these two thugs must not be released. So this is his mother. I'm thinking about my son every moment of every day, and then this. The insult is beyond anything able to be put into words. It makes me feel sick. Andrew's life doesn't get to come back. Lissy Harper is widow. By the way, the day after he was murdered, he was due to be going on his honeymoon to his newlywed bride, Lissy. She says, "It has taken me years to rebuild a life that was torn apart in a matter of moments. Years to pick up the pieces left behind by three men whose actions robbed Andrew of his life and stole our future. Now, once again, politicians are making decisions from behind a desk that will have real and lasting consequences for victims' families like mine." I could go on, but both those interviews break your heart, Aileen. And I'm going to reiterate once again what happened to poor Andrew. He'd opted to stay on duty because he thought he was close to cracking the case of a stolen quad bike that these three, I think, nicked. Ended up, he got his ankles caught in their tow rope, and they dragged him along the country lane for about a mile. When his body was found, the people who found it thought that they'd stumbled upon a deer carcass that had been skinned. That's how badly injured, how badly murdered he was. So you cannot overstate the horror of this case. The fact that these two thugs who did it are slated for release in September after just 6 years, that must be infuriating you, your colleagues, especially those who were friends, those who knew Andrew those years ago. What are your thoughts, Aileen?
Gut-wrenching is my initial reaction when I heard last night, when I was sent the Telegraph report. My heart went to my stomach, if I'm really honest with you, and that's no exaggeration. And I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm incredibly disappointed, and I speak for the voice of my membership across Thames Valley Police. And I actually think I'm fairly confident I can speak for cops up and down the country, because I also think they will equally as be frustrated and angry at the news and the prospects of these individuals being released early from a sentence.
Yeah, let's remind ourselves. Andy Burnham earlier on today was confronted with this. He said that these two people being released, that was unacceptable. But then he went on to say this.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release. Of course, others involved have potentially been identified, but I've spoken to the new Justice Secretary. We will review the policy together and make further statements in due course.
Well, Aileen, that new Justice Secretary is Alex Norris. I don't think we are not, in this case, talking about policy review. What those two men, Burnham and Norris, need to do as a matter of urgency, I think you'd probably agree, is to issue a statement saying they won't be released. These two will stay in jail. That would help, wouldn't it?
Definitely. I think this policy definitely does need a review. If you look at the previous policy, certain offences you were allowed a 40% discount. There's no exemptions in this policy. There needs to be exemptions in this policy and this early release scheme, that for murderers, rapists, those other victims of child grooming gangs, etc., these individuals don't deserve to be released. These individuals, if they're given a sentence of 13, 16, 25 years, they deserve to spend every minute behind lock and key in a prison for the duration of that sentence, in my view.
Well, Lizzie Harper, Andrew's widow, she's got the MBE now because after his horrible death, she campaigned for what's called Harper's Law. And that was, and Harper's Law is to inflict on people who kill or maim emergency workers, especially coppers, especially severe sentences. So as she says, she said the cross-party support that helped to make Harper's Law a reality today feels forgotten. It feels forgotten. So all the work she did to bring in the excellent Harper's Law, at least something to remember Andrew by, she says is now ruined by this. I mean, coppers just generally across the country, especially in Thames Valley, I assume. I mean, you must feel all these, these dreadful people that you investigate, you arrest, you bring successful prosecutions against, and then they go to jail, and then we have this government letting them out after just a couple of years. I mean, coppers must feel particularly let down by this early release scheme.
Yeah, I would go a step further and say that early release scheme flies in completely the face of Harper's Law and everything that campaign stands for. The work and the effort and the commitment that was put in by Lizzie Harper at the time, that was heavily backed by our federation and by our media provider, Martis Media at the time, it completely flies in the face of it. And every police officer up and down the country, whether they are investigating a crime like this against a colleague or a heinous crime against a member of the public where they've been murdered or raped, this policy flies completely in the face of all those things to protect victims up and down the country. It's perverse.
It is. Now, you Aileen, I don't know if you personally knew Andrew Harper, but it was only 6 years ago. There must be a lot of coppers at Thames Valley who remember Andrew, who were friends of Andrew. I gather he was a very popular guy, clearly a very dedicated copper, because he was slated to have that day off. But he thought he could crack the case of the stolen quad bike, so he says, I'm going to finish this case, then I'm off on my honeymoon. The whole story is heartbreaking, it's infuriating. What are the coppers who were friends of his, their colleagues, what are they feeling today?
This is a tragedy, and for me, the anger and the frustration and the feelings that I have and that my members have and that the community have, and officers up and down the country, I need to turn that anger into some form of positivity and do something positive about this. And for me, this is about justice. This is about justice for him, justice for Lizzie, justice for his family, because he didn't have a chance that night. He stayed on duty to go to that burglary. He should have not even been there. He should have been off duty, and he should have been flying away in his honeymoon. He should have been enjoying the first early days of his married life and working towards a future with a family of his own and having a dedicated career. And then that was wiped away by these three callous individuals. And that cannot ever happen again. And it's completely and utterly unacceptable.
Yeah, the third one, the third of these thugs, who was the driver, he got 16 years. This was 2020. He got 16 years as the main perpetrator, and the other two got 13. They're 13 years. They're the ones who are going to be let out. And when Andy Burnham says, oh, don't worry, the driver, the main perpetrator, he's not being let out. Well, he never was going to be let out. So that's weasel words for the Prime Minister. I'm going to go back to Lizzie Harper's statement that she's released. Aileen. She says, for victims' families, this is not about politics. It is about whether a sentence means what a judge says it means. It is about justice. It is about whether justice is something we truly believe in or something that can be negotiated away when it becomes convenient. Andrew deserves better. Every victim deserves better, and the British public deserve a justice system they can have faith in. Lizzie Harper is an impressive woman, and that is an impressive statement. It sums this up. What she's saying is what the government's doing. These serious sentences for people who've committed the worst kind of crimes. In this case, well, it was manslaughter, but it was a terrible, terrible murder, if you ask me. But we're talking about paedophiles, we're talking about rapists, we're talking about killers. Their sentences are currently being negotiated away by a government because it's inconvenient to keep them behind bars because prisons are too crowded. That is not good enough. At the very least, Aileen, wouldn't it be nice if the government said, OK, we understand the fury here. We are busy building more jails so we don't have to keep releasing killers and rapists. Wouldn't that be an idea?
Well, it's just one of many ideas, isn't it? We can build hospitals quickly. We can do lots of things quickly. But where's the priority? Lizzie Harper has shown nothing but dignity throughout this whole period, and that statement speaks volumes. And I take my hat off to her, and I have so much respect for Lizzie. And I have a gut wrenching feeling about how she's feeling at this time. Yeah, but she's right. Everything that she says in that statement, the bigger piece here and the wider piece is around justice for victims of those horrendous crimes that you have detailed. And this policy flies in the face of supporting victims and families of those victims when there's, and what hope can they have? What hope do the British public have around that system? That's why it needs to change. That's why there's a slight glimmer of hope for me that Andy Burnham has picked up the gravity of this situation. But the public need to get behind us, and I think the public are behind us.
Yeah, and can I take it, Aileen, that your federation, the Thames Valley Police Federation, will be letting the Prime Minister know your feelings about this?
Yes, unreservedly. I'm in a fortunate position that I work with a really good media provider. I also work with the Chief and my Chief Constable and my PCC have sent the letters already to the Prime Minister. So I'm going to go wherever I need to go and shout as loud as I can. If I have anything behind me, I will be throwing everything at this.
Aileen, you can come on to talk and shout your head off anytime you like. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Aileen O'Connor there, chair of the Police Federation in Thames Valley. That's basically the union of the coppers who work in the Thames Valley area, where poor, tragic PC Andrew Harper worked and lost his life. Next up, we're going to talk to comedian Paul Cox, also political commentator as well. Robert Jenrick was caught on hot mic, as they call it, after being interviewed by Ed Balls, that Labour politician masquerading as a TV presenter, and Susanna Reid on ITV's laughably left-wing bias morning show, Good Morning Britain. Robert Jenrick finished an interview and went, well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it? Yeah, well, Robert, it always is on GMB. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Comedian Paul Cox is in the studio. Welcome, Paul. I mean, this is kind of funny, but there's a serious element to it. This is Reform UK's Treasury spokesman, Robert Jenrick, who submitted himself, more for him, to an interview on Good Morning Britain by Susanna Reid and, of course, her co-host, the Labour politician, masquerading as a TV presenter, Ed Balls, former shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, no less. Well, look, this was after his grilling, which was mostly about, of course, Nigel Farage's £5 million bung, which, of course, they're all very obsessed by. This was Robert Jenrick's response.
Robert Jenrick, that is very clear. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.
7:35, still to come on Good Morning Britain. If a young person in your family is about to head off travelling this summer...
Oh dear. I think it wasn't a waste of time. I think Robert Jenrick gave us very clear answers, and on the police investigation, it's not a waste of time for him to make clear that he believes there's no police investigation. So, it was good he came on the programme.
And we're very grateful for his time.
Yeah, waste of time.
All of that was incredibly revealing, though, wasn't it? From a journalistic perspective, they didn't... A, they could have shut his mic off. B, Ed Balls didn't have to bring it up.
Might have been an idea. That might have been the professional thing to do.
Ed Balls didn't have to bring any attention to it because they were going to a break anyway. All it did was reveal to me what their political persuasions are. And, of course, it was another interview about the £5 million that Nigel Farage was given, and he's used it... You know, we don't need to go into this. It's covered in 1,000 other ways. But what do their audience get from this? This is what I want to know. They treat their audience as if they should believe and think in a certain way. And as a result, they treat them with disdain, as far as I'm concerned, because they can easily just go... They could ask any raft of questions about reform, considering we've just had a change of Prime Minister. What do they think of that? What would reform do differently? I want to know what reform's policies are.
And what was all the questioning about the £5 million
all about
lump sum to Nigel Farage? He was also pressed, Robert Jenrick, on his alleged hypocrisy in criticising the Tories because he was allegedly an integral part of their recent tenure. So basically, I guess what you have to ask here is, why are ITV allowed to do this? I mean, this guy, at one point, do you remember the absurdity? He was interviewing his wife, Yvette Cooper, when she was Home Secretary. So it's like, oh, welcome to the Ms. Cooper. You know, limited up with this policy. It's his bloody wife. ITV apologised for that and said that won't happen again. But basically, every time there is a non-Labour politician on Good Morning Britain, Ed Miliband goes into Labour political mode. It's quite clear. How much longer are they going to allow this guy to campaign on behalf of the Labour Party on television on Good Morning Britain?
I think they'll allow it a lot longer than now. I think it'll keep going throughout the next 2 or 3 years, because there are a number of things have happened to this point that would be sackable offences if they cared about impartiality at all. And don't tell us you care about impartiality if you seriously don't. I mean, I'd much rather someone say, no, we're totally partial. We favour the Labour Party. We're going to argue the case from a Labour Party perspective, and therefore Robert Jenrick's going to get the anti-Farage treatment. But they don't do that. They pretend, much like the BBC, that they are impartial in some way, and all they're seeking is the truth. They're not interested in the truth whatsoever. In fact, if they're interested in the truth, they'd ask 1,000 other different questions. We already know that Robert Jenrick was a Tory. We already know that Nigel Farage is being investigated for accepting a gift of £5 million. And by the way, that's all being sorted out a number of different ways. You don't even need to talk about it. If you've got Robert Jenrick on your show, at least make the most of it. Perhaps there's some people in your audience left that would be getting some value from him, from some real journalism.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's move on from ITV's laughably biased breakfast show. And let me ask you about the big question of the day. Japanese women have launched a campaign. This is
sorry, I thought that was the
particular question. No, Japanese women are not inherently funny, Paul. You
No,
might think they are, but I'm going to
Sorry.
disassociate myself from this rampant sexism.
This will be on
against
GMB
Japanese
tomorrow.
women. Yeah, we'll be getting grilled by Ed Balls. So. Japanese women have complained, have launched a campaign to stop Japanese men wearing shorts, particularly in the office. Now, I'm with Japanese women on this because too many people in Talk's office, I won't name any names, Peter Cardwell, wear shorts as soon as the sun comes out. And I think they should be banned. I don't think I should have to look at Peter Cardwell's legs. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to anybody. Do you think men should be banned from wearing shorts?
Well, I feel
in the
like I
office?
should give some balance on Peter Cardwell's legs. I've actually just seen them,
Yeah.
so they're okay. I would say.
Would you say so?
Okay is where I'm going to go.
I think they're unacceptable.
That's as far as I'm going to go in balance. Look,
They're the unacceptable face of politics.
I find myself in an embarrassing predicament here because I've actually arrived entirely unprofessionally dressed. I am in shorts.
I was going to say, you
and
didn't have to
t-shirt.
dress up.
So Sophie, the producer, is wonderful. She spoke to me. I was actually on my way to take my daughter to see Bruno Mars at Wembley Stadium. I said, look, I'll come along. I'd love to come into the studio as I'm in town, but I will be dressed this way. It's very unusual. In fact, in 4 or 5 years of media work, I've never been in anything that's not at least a shirt and blazer.
I'll tell you what, Paul, I barely noticed, but thanks for pointing it out. But should shorts be allowed in the office?
I don't necessarily think so, actually. I can think of 1,000 arguments, liberal arguments, why people should dress a certain way, but this isn't about shorts and dress. This is about anti-air conditioning, I think, because there is a resolution to all of this problem. Put air conditioning in.
Well, we've got air conditioning.
We have.
It doesn't stop Cardwell coming in his
You know, he's got okay legs. He wants us to see them.
Well,
he's an
I've
exhibitionist.
seen his legs. I think you're being way too generous.
I'm just trying to add some balance. Perhaps he's out there. You haven't got to go out there for another hour or so. I'm going to have to walk out there in a minute. Look, he can do what he likes, I guess. But I do believe that this is much more about air conditioning. We seem to have made air conditioning evil this summer because it's a solution to the climate zealots' problems.
Yes.
Because if we put air conditioning into places, people aren't going to be worried about the climate at all. Therefore, air conditioning is bad. So what they're saying in Japan is don't have air conditioning, dress in shorts and linen, go into the office dressed down, and everything will be okay.
Is this about saving the planet or something?
Well, I'm reading between the lines. This is the Paul Cox version of the story.
Yeah.
I'm saying the more I read about this story, the more I realise that these are people who don't want to. I've just chucked water all over.
Oh, no, that's all the equipment.
That's...
In a minute, we're going to phase out sparks coming out of the console.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So Sophie will be in to wipe that up as quickly as possible. Let's leave that hanging there while Paul douses the entire studio with H2O. In the meantime, let me know what you think. Should men, and I'm talking about Peter Cardwell, be banned from wearing shorts in the office? It's a yes from me. What do you think? 0344499 1000. A big thanks to Paul Cox for ruining the studio. Thanks for coming in, Paul. Enjoy Bruno Mars tonight, if that's humanly possible. Yeah. There you go. Paul Cox. We're going to take some calls and I'll read some messages. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, I'll play them out after this break. So stay where you are. Back in a mo.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Going to take a few of your calls in just a second. Get your calls coming in, though, because in, I don't know, something like 40 minutes or so, about 6:30, we're going to go over to you, hand the show over to you to get your thoughts on the issues of the day. So that's 03444991000. You can leave a WhatsApp voice note if you like, or you can just send me a text or a WhatsApp message. But best of all, just give us a call, 03444991000, and let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. The big story of the day is obviously the release, or the proposed release, of these two thugs who killed poor PC Andrew Harper. They were sentenced to 13 years for manslaughter in 2020. They're now set for early release in September. And both Andrew Harper's widow and his mother have let their feelings be known in no uncertain fashion. What do you think about the release of these two thugs who towed poor Andrew Harper down the road for about a mile on a rope behind their car? It literally skinned him. What a way to die. They're getting let out. Neither Lissy Harper or Debbie Adlam can contain their fury. We've just spoken to colleagues of Andrew in Thames Valley, their union representative, Aileen O'Connor. She's already written to Andy Burnham, so you can't let these people out. In fact, you've got to stop letting out killers, paedophiles, rapists. You've got to stop doing this. You know, I don't want to hear about crowded jails, overcrowded jails. You can't say, oh, well, the jails are overcrowded, so we've got to let rapists out. Come on. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Build more jails. You can't let rapists out. You can't let killers out. It's absurd. No serious country would do that. Let's go over to, well, let me know what you think about that, 03444991000. Let's go over to my next guest. He's author... oh, no, we're going to do... Sorry, I've got this wrong. We're going to do calls first, and then we're going to talk to author and columnist Gavin Ashenden. So, calls first. Let's go to Nick in London. Hello, Nick.
Yes, hello, Kevin. Calling about PC Andrew Harper and...
Nick, this is a terrible line. We'll call you back. We'll get a better line. Can we call Nick back, see if we can improve on that line? Let's talk to Tony in Doncaster. Hello, Tony.
Evening, Kev. It's just a quick one. If King Andy wants to save some money, maybe it would be a good idea for the next 12 months to have a postponement on overseas aid. For a couple of reasons only, which is save a lot of money for the country and working people.
Yeah, but you've heard, Tony, haven't you, what they're doing? Far from cutting it, they've added £10 billion to the budget. It was 8.3 billion. It's now 18 billion. So they're having trouble finding money left, right and centre, but they've managed to find £10 billion to give to foreign countries, not to Brits, to foreign countries. Great, isn't it?
It's ridiculous, and I'll give you two examples why, in my humble opinion, we should cut overseas aid. Number one, if you check with the World Global Banks at the minute, if the information is correct, that approximately only 20% of the money that is going to Ukraine is actually getting to where it should.
Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah,
this is due to red tape. Legislation and predominantly corruption. And the second example is a gentleman, which is a classic example, called Timur Mitchit, that's right. Sorry, my wife just corrected me.
Who's he?
It was one of the allies of Mrs. Zelensky that's been done for...
Oh, well, yeah, OK. Well, you're getting a bit technical here, Tony. I mean, it's way too technical. But, you know, I do think we give too much money to Ukraine. I understand the importance of that, but I think we give too much money to them. And increasing the foreign aid budget by £10 billion is an insult to all of us struggling in the cost of living crisis. Tony, good call. Thanks for ringing. Tony in Doncaster there. Let's talk to Danny in Cambridgeshire. Hello, Danny.
Hi, mate. How are you doing?
I'm all right. What do you want to say about these thugs who are going to be released from prison?
Released? I find it disgusting. They shouldn't be released. They should have been given life. All three of them. It's downright disgusting. The police put their lives on their line every day for us, and thugs like that think it's funny that they'll get out after a couple of years. Disgusting.
It really is. I mean, just to put it into context, the driver of the car that dragged poor PC Harper down the road for a mile and killed him, he got 16 years for manslaughter, and his two accomplices, as it were, they got 13 years. Now, the driver isn't going to be released and was never up for release, but the other two, who got 13 years, are going to be released, unless something happens, in September, after serving just 6 years for what I say. You can call it manslaughter as much as you like. It was a horrific murder. It's just disgusting that they're getting let out after 6 years. Do me a favour.
It's downright disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And we pay our taxes for them to treat us, this Labour government, to treat us like this. It's absolutely disgusting. On all levels, it's disgusting.
It really is, Danny. I couldn't agree with you more. It's an insult to the memory of PC Andrew Harper. It's an insult to his poor widow, Lizzie, and it's an insult to his heartbroken mother, Debbie Adlam. Both of whom have given very, very moving statements today. They have been severely let down by a justice system in this country that is no longer serious. It's a joke. It's a joke. What are we going to do about it? 03444991000. Next up, I'm going to introduce to the show after the 6 o'clock news, author, columnist Gavin Ashenden. So stick around for that. We will be back after this bulletin.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, I'm going to bring you the extraordinary story of the monkey left on a London bus. It was a frightened little marmoset which was found on the 302 in Kensal Rise in North London. Now, this little pet monkey was deliberately abandoned. And if you stay tuned, you'll find out from the RSPCA why they fear this could be the first of many pet monkeys being dumped, being abandoned by their owners. There's a reason for this. And we'll reveal that in a little while. In the meantime, let's go over to my next guest. He's author, columnist, former chaplain to the late, great Queen Elizabeth II, Gavin Ashenden. Welcome, Gavin.
Hello, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. The big story of the day, very keen to get your reaction, is that two of the trio of thugs who killed poor PC Andrew Harper by dragging him down the road on the back of their car to the extent that he was skinned alive and, of course, killed. Two of them are now slated for early release under the early release scheme. We have spoken to colleagues of his today, coppers, former coppers. They are absolutely furious about this. The Prime Minister was quizzed about it earlier. He said it's unacceptable and he's looking into reviewing the policy. Well, I think what he has to do, never mind the policy. Yes, the policy should be looked at very seriously. It's not a good policy to let rapists, killers, drug dealers out early after just a fraction of their sentences. Clearly, that's a bad policy. Should build more jails. That might help, and then you'd have room to imprison them, wouldn't you? But in this instance, don't you feel that the Prime Minister and indeed the new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, who's responsible for the early release scheme, should just say, we've looked at this case and these two aren't getting out?
Yep, absolutely. Every time we have a new change of government or new change of personnel or people take responsibility, the first thing that happens is they're tested. Their integrity is tested by events. So this event is a very serious one. Although we've been very critical of policing policy, individual police deserve a great deal better from us and from the government. And if I was a policeman and I'd seen this as what happened to police killers, I would be hugely demoralized. It's a parallel to the way in which we treat armed policemen by launching inquiries that then suspend them for years because they've taken risks on our behalf. So the problem is that the police are being very seriously undermined. And one of the ways in which Andy Burnham could put his weight behind re-gluing society is by saying, I'm going to intervene. He clearly can't intervene every day in every crisis, but this is the first crisis. It's really significant. He ought to say, we're going to suspend the influence of the blob, the way in which administration works and dominates everything, and we're going to take back control, executive control, to do the right and just thing. Without doing the right and just thing, society cannot have any confidence in its government.
Just to ram home the emotional power of this case, Lizzie Harper now got an MBE. That's Andrew Harper's widow. He had opted to stay on duty that day. He was due to have the day off and then go directly on his honeymoon, but he said, I'll work today because I'm close to cracking the case of this stolen quad bike. These three tow rags were suspected of stealing this quad bike. He thought he could solve the case. So he said, I'll just do this last day. And we know how that day ended. Lizzie said, it has taken me years to rebuild my life that was torn apart in a matter of moments. Years to pick up the pieces left behind by three men whose actions robbed Andrew of his life and stole our future. She went on to talk about the release of prisoners as a political convenience. She said, for victims' families, this is not about politics. It is about whether a sentence means what a judge says it means. It is about whether justice is something we truly believe in or something that can be negotiated away when it becomes inconvenient. Andrew deserves better. Every victim deserves better, and the British public deserve a justice system they can have faith in. Very powerful words. As for poor Andrew's heartbroken mother, Debbie Adlam, she said, "I'm thinking about my son every moment of every day, and then this. This insult is beyond anything able to be put into words. It makes me feel sick. Andrew's life doesn't get to come back." Now, on the back of that, let me play you, Andrew, the Prime Minister earlier. He was confronted with the release of, or the impending release of these two thugs, and he said that was unacceptable, and he went on to say this.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release. Of course, others involved have potentially been identified, but I've spoken to the new Justice Secretary. We will review the policy together and make further statements in due course.
And earlier on this show, I spoke to Gavin. I spoke to the Police Federation representative in Thames Valley. She's the chair of the federation there. That's effectively the policemen's union. So she represents the coppers who knew and worked and were friends with Andrew. So they are feeling particularly furious today. This is what Aileen O'Connor had to say.
Gut-wrenching is my initial reaction when I heard last night, when I was sent the Telegraph report. My heart went to my stomach, if I'm really honest with you, and that's no exaggeration. And I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm incredibly disappointed, and I speak for the voice of my membership across Thames Valley Police. And I actually think I'm fairly confident I can speak for cops up and down the country, because I also think they will equally as be frustrated and angry at the news and the prospects of these individuals being released early from a sentence.
Now, Gavin, in terms of reviewing the policy, OK, fine, it's a terrible policy, do something about it. But what we're looking from Burnham, and indeed his Justice Secretary, his new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, is movement on this particular case. This is a case that shocked the country. It's a case that has left his poor widow heartbroken, his mother struggling to get through day after day, constantly remembering her son. It's not good enough for him to say, oh, you're going to get together, we're going to review the policy. What we want from the Prime Minister right now, is it not, is a statement saying these two, on reflection, will not be released.
Yes, that's exactly what I want. One of the most powerful elements in the way human beings function is that we have a very deep sense of justice and injustice. That doesn't mean we always make the right judgments, but we feel it immensely strongly. And one of the things that's likely to cause a great deal of civil turbulence is if justice is being denied in matters that really come to our attention. But it isn't just this case. That's the trouble. I mean, yesterday there was news about some of the rapists in the Rotherham scandal who are coming out early. And so they're victims who've been struggling with the experience and are quite unable to get themselves free from it, and are being punished again because the state's unable to do what it said it would do. And that's simply to observe the tariffs of punishment that it gave. So yes, PC Harper matters enormously. Street police morale will be very profoundly affected by it. But even if Andy Burnham managed to oversee this and execute an executive action which stopped it happening, he's going to face it tomorrow and the next day and the next day, because the system is broken. And only if they attempt to change the way in which justice is managed in our society is this not going to be a recurring event that happens daily or weekly.
A country that puts people in jail for just 6 years for killing cops
is not a serious country. And that's what worries me about Great Britain now. More and more, our policies, our foreign policy, our domestic policies, they're just not serious. They're not the policies of a serious nation. If somebody kills a copper, the sentence should be severe. 6 years, as Andrew Harper's mother said, is an insult to that brave copper's memory, isn't it?
Well, it is. When I was young, the death penalty was still in place and people got hung. I'm not saying that this, I'm not making an argument for capital punishment, though there are plenty of people who want to do that. But the fact that we've moved from people being accountable for their own lives and therefore being much more careful about who they kill, to a sentence that you might expect a burglar to be given on occasions is a sign of how far away we've gone in the sense of the value of human life. The value of human life is at stake in all kinds of ways, and it stretches from highly controversial issues like abortion to more problematic ones like euthanasia. But we're dealing with the same thing every time. We're dealing with a society that doesn't take human life seriously. And it's easy to relax if it's somebody else's life, but if it's your son, your brother, your daughter who's been raped, then the way in which our government has abdicated its responsibilities to keep its citizens safe becomes a matter of enormous seriousness.
Rapists, paedophiles, killers, drug dealers should not be released as a matter of political convenience. That's what this is all about. And the government needs to start building some jails. Let's keep saying, well, we don't have any choice because the prisons are so crowded. We've got to let them out. That is unacceptable. Start doing something. In terms of doing something, let's talk about the reign of King Andy so far, shall we, Gavin? Essentially, you could sum it up with promises, 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 but no money to pay for them. He has so far promised, I worked this out earlier, nearly £1,700,000 worth of policies. One is an £850 million cost to get rid of the VAT on our energy bills. Nice thought. That will save us all, and we're all very excited about this, a whole 86p a week. So he announced this, but we know he hasn't got the funds for it. That's £850 million. Then his Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, announced, there's going to be a £2 cap on bus fares. That'll cost £450 million. Again, it's not funded, it's not costed. And then, of course, there's his Downing Street pledge that he made on Monday to end rough sleeping with an investment of £340 million. If I gave him £340 billion, he wouldn't end rough sleeping. So that pledge was just fatuous. But you take that is nearly £1,700,000 of initiatives he's promised us. He hasn't got the money to pay for them. What does he think he's playing at?
Well, he hasn't, but to some extent, he's getting away with it because as a consumerist society, we're prepared to be bribed. So if we're prepared to be bought by politicians making us false promises, we kind of deserve the politicians we get. The reality is that the only way to recover our economy properly is to experience a degree of constructive and creative pain. In other words, we'll get poorer, but in order to guard the future for our children. The danger with where we are at the moment is that the left are doing what they always do, which is to bribe the electorate exponentially and then to drive us into bankruptcy, at which point the IMF will step in exactly as they did in the 1970s, which is the time that Andy Burnham promises to take us back to. And the pain is even greater, the pain and the length of time to climb out of it. In one sense, economics is both very, very complex and very simple. It's complex in the sense that it's difficult to work out the exact ramifications of certain policies, but it's extremely simple in another sense, that if you promise too much and you bankrupt a country and you don't have a source of income to earn your way, then you end up by being exponentially poorer. We're going to be very much poorer because Andy Burnham seems to think he can bribe us, and for the moment, we're prepared to be bribed. We should not be prepared to be bribed anymore.
Well, it doesn't particularly bribe me. £2 for a bus fare and 86p a week saved on my energy bill. In the field of bribery, that isn't up to much, if you ask me. But You know, he seems to be careering down this road. Do you think, Gavin, that Andy Burnham and the Westminster bubble types, do you think they have any concept of what the people of this country feel when we see all of Starmer's cabinet secretaries getting their marching orders sacked, basically, back to having to struggle by on their £99,000 a year plus generous expenses MPs deals, £99,000 a year, so they're back to having to struggle by on that. As a cabinet secretary, they get about 140,000 or something like that. But when they lose their cabinet secretary's job, they get these payoffs, compensatory payoffs. So to get rid of 11 of Starmer's useless cabinet crew, it's going to cost us taxpayers more than £200,000 in payoffs. Now, the worst of those is Angela Rayner, who 7 months ago had to quit in disgrace after it was revealed she dodged her stamp duty taxes on her new swish new seafront apartment in Sussex. So she had to resign in disgrace, but for some reason still got her £17,000 payoff. 7 months later, she'd be given the same job back as Housing Secretary, and she still is in possession of that 17 grand payoff. So I think she must repay that. If Andy Burnham really is serious about presiding over a new kind of politics, she's got to pay back that 17 grand, and he's got to take steps to make sure that from now on, cabinet ministers don't get massive, great payoffs when they get sacked. It's ridiculous. And as I say, to return to my initial question, do you think Burnham, very much a Westminster bubble boy, and all of these politicos in the Westminster bubble, do you think they have any concept of how disgusting that we, the people, find this? All of these politico snouts in the trough dividing up our taxpayers' money between us. It's a revolting spectacle. Andy should stop it, shouldn't he?
I think it should. I'm reminded of Anne Widdecombe, whose memory is being fast sort of covered over. One of the reasons I'm mentioning Anne at this point is because when there was an exploration into government expenses, they said that she was about the only MP in the whole of the House of Commons who was not on the take, and because she was a woman of integrity. We don't have many politicians of integrity. And one of the ways in which the whole system is brought into disrepute is when people like Andy Burnham and Angela Rayner, if they don't take action here, simply continue as if they're not accountable because it's in their own personal interests. But we require politicians to act with integrity. And what that means is, from time to time, you do things that are inconvenient to you. I'm sure it'll be inconvenient for Angela Rayner to pay back £17,000, but if she doesn't do it, we know that we have yet another corrupt politician. And if she's allowed not to do it, we have another corrupt administration. Yeah. And if we go on having corrupt politicians and corrupt administrations, democracy will fall. So I mean, a good thank you for this program for holding them to account, because you're the only people who are. Nobody else is bothering. And it matters enormously.
It does matter. And if Andy Burnham doesn't do something about this, particularly in the case of Angela Rayner, then we know that he will preside over the continuation of Westminster sleaze. They all come in saying the same thing. Starmer said, I'm going to clean up Westminster, no more sleaze. And pretty soon, well, as Starmer was saying, no more sleaze. What we didn't know at that point was he was standing there in a free suit given to him by Labour's Dr. Feel-Good donor, Wahid Ali. So all of them say they're going to clean it up. They never do. I bet you, sadly, Burnham will be no exception to that rule. Gavin, fantastic to have you on. Come on again soon. Love having you on the show. That is author, columnist, former C of E. He was the chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II. I think he's converted to the Catholicism now. Gavin Ashenden, good man, I think. Right, we're going to go to break. Don't forget, keep your calls coming in. I particularly want to know, Andy Burnham's got to stop this release of these two thugs who killed Andrew Harper, hasn't he? PC Andrew Harper, for the sake of his widow, for the sake of his mother, for the sake of his grieving family, for the sake of his grieving colleagues in Thames Valley Police. Andy Burnham must stop these two tow rags being let out of jail. Do you agree? 0344 499 1000. Let's get the Prime Minister to make a stand. Let me know what you think about that, OK? And should Angela Rayner pay back that £17,000 payoff she got when she resigned in disgrace, having not paid her stamp duty on her swish new Sussex seafront apartment? She's got the same job back now, 7 months later. She's got to give the 17 grand back. Otherwise, I say that amounts to grand larceny. Our money, taxpayers' money. 0344 499 1000. Next up after this break, we're going to talk about the strange case of the monkey found abandoned in a laundry bag on a London bus. There's quite a tale behind it, so stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There's a new punishment for the crime of phone fraud, pretending your phone's been stolen for insurance purposes. The punishment is you get promoted to become Andy Burnham's enforcer, the cabinet chief, the Chancellor to the Duchy of Lancaster, Louise Haigh. Convicted fraudster, now one of the most powerful people in government. Good, isn't it? It's a new kind of politics, folks. Crooks in the cabinet. Yeah, that's not the kind of new politics we were looking for, actually, Andy, but thanks very much. We'll return to that topic in just a little while. Let me know, should there be a convicted fraudster in the cabinet? 0344 499 1000. Should Angela Rayner pay back her £17,000 payoff? And what the hell is going on with those two thugs who are going to be released? Should Andy Burnham block the release of the two killers of poor PC Andrew Harper? All of that to be discussed in a little while. Get on the phone, let's talk. 0344 499 1000. In the meantime, let's talk about a very strange story. The other day, a monkey was found abandoned in a laundry bag on a London bus. It's the 302, if you want to know, in the 302 bus in Kensal Rise. This laundry basket was sticking out. Some woman couldn't get past, and they suddenly noticed that there were noises coming out, chirping, and this poor little monkey, a mama said it was, very frightened, was in there jumping around, making noises. Now, this little monkey, I'm glad to say, has been rehomed. But there's cause to worry about this because the RSPCA fear that there may be a spate now of monkeys being abandoned by their owners for a specific reason. Let's talk about that from the RSPCA, London Chief Inspector Claire Dew. Welcome to the show, Claire.
Good evening.
Now, as I understand it, we'll talk about our little monkey friend on the 302 in just a second, but as I understand it, what the RSPCA are worried about was in April, for some reason, a new law was brought in requiring all owners of primates, of monkeys, pet monkeys, I guess, to have a licence for their monkeys, for their primates. It is feared that this abandonment was the result of that, and that a lot of people who do keep monkeys won't bother with the licence, they'll just get rid of their monkeys. Am I right?
Yes, I mean, that's very true. In April, the law changed, making it incredibly difficult for people that are keeping primates as pets not to keep them in conditions that are almost equivalent to keeping them as we would at our zoos and our wildlife parks. That's very good for the primates, obviously, and for pet keeping in general. But it is causing some concern for those people that just can't afford to do it, won't afford to do it, Kevin.
Yeah, and that's what we assume. This could be the case with this poor little, they've called him an oyster, haven't they, or something? That could be the case with this monkey, but hopefully there won't be any more cases like this. But, you know, really heartbreaking to think of that poor little thing, that poor little animal in a laundry basket just left on a bus. It was clearly frightened, but I gather there's a kind of happy ending to this story. What's happened to our little marmoset friend, Oyster?
Oyster, little girl, yes, I mean, it would have been very sad and distressing for her. The only grateful thing about it is that the person decided to leave it somewhere it would be found. We do have concerns that people will start to release them into the wild, thinking they can live in trees here in the UK, or simply leave them places where they won't be found. For Oyster, good ending. She's with the RSPCA. She's being very well looked after while we're continuing to make some inquiries as to who actually left her behind.
So where is she living now then, Oyster?
She's in a private establishment that the RSPCA have approved and found for her. She'll stay there for the moment, and then hopefully we'll manage to get her with a troop of monkeys as to how they live. That's the biggest problem for primate and primate keepers, is they are highly social creatures. They like to live in large family groups. Keeping one by itself is cruel in its own right.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you know, I guess if you get the licence, it's not illegal to have a monkey as a pet, but they're not really ideal pets, are they? Domestic pets.
No, they're very difficult to keep. They need a lot of space. They need have some very specific health needs. They need lots of other monkeys to live with. It's not like having a cat or a dog, and there are enough laws and legislation and difficulties around keeping those, and we have lots of those in the country. But we believe there are probably around 5,000 primate keepers in the UK at the moment that we're aware of, and there are probably a lot more, I'm afraid, Kevin, that we're not.
I mean, what is your real... I mean, the licence seems like in itself a good idea, you know, insofar as people who want to keep monkeys as pets should know the rules, that, you know about what these primates require, etc., etc., etc. So the licence ostensibly seems like a good idea, but the problem is in the real world, like the case of Oyster, it will cause quite a few owners to say, oh, I can't be doing with a licence, whatever money that entails. I'm just going to dump this poor little animal. That would be the fear, wouldn't it?
It does, and it does force some people into that corner, having to make a decision. But nobody has to be forced to dump an animal or abandon it on a bus or elsewhere. Reach out to organisations like the RSPCA. There are primate-specific organisations and charities that will be willing to help. Speak to your local vet. Speak to anybody that might be able to help. Please don't just leave it in a carrier on a bus.
Is there a number or a website that people should get in touch with
yeah, they can contact the RSPCA on our number, which is 0300 1234 999.
I'll say that again, 0300
1234
yeah
999.
yeah.
And
or have a look at the RSPCA website, have a look at our summer cruelty campaign, and have a look at information how you can get into contact with us about monkeys or any other concerns you have about your own pets.
obviously, you can find RSPCA by just putting it into Google. Claire Dew, London Chief Inspector for the RSPCA, thank you so much for coming on. That was very interesting. Thank you. Claire Dew, about this poor little abandoned monkey, Oyster, found on the 302. Now, Oyster's owner, you know, clearly thought, well, if I leave it on the bus, somebody will find it, you know. But as Claire just said, if you do have a monkey or any pet you can't handle, for God's sake, go to the RSPCA. That's what they're for. Don't just leave it on a bus. Although I suppose that's better than just abandoning it in there. Don't, for God's sake, take it to the local park and think it can hang around in trees, because it can't. Anyway, so you got that number there, the RSPCA, or you can ring 0300 123 499. Right, next up, well, for the rest of the show, it is for you, the fantastic audience. Give me a call. You know what we're talking about. Mainly Andrew Harper's killers being released. Andrew Burnham, that's what the King calls him, apparently, in royal papers, royal documents. The Prime Minister, it has been decided, will be referred to as Mr. Andrew Burnham. They're having none of that Andy lark at Buckingham Palace, I'll tell you that. But Andy Burnham, what do you think about Andy Burnham's response to these people released? Oh, policy review. Don't want a policy review. We do. We want to stop letting out rapists, killers and murderers, etc. early. We want that to stop completely, build more jails, obviously. But in the short term, never mind about policy review. Andy, a bit of advice. You know, I know about these things. I know how to get good publicity. I've been around a long time. Just announce you've decided they are not going to be released. Just do that. It'll be much more popular than all these policies you keep announcing that you can't pay for. You can actually do something here. Stop these two tow rags being released. And that will gain you a lot of popularity. It really, really will. We're talking about Albert Boas and Jesse Cole, who got 13 years in 2020, 6 years ago, for manslaughter. They were in the car that dragged poor PC Andrew Harper, who was only 28 at the time, for more than a mile down a country road. His ankles caught in the tow rope. It was a horrific death. His wife, a widow now, and his mother lived through that heartbreak every single day. Let's, out of respect for them, for God's sake, keep these two thugs in jail, these two killers. That's what they are. I don't quite know how they got away with manslaughter, but they did. This is murder, if you ask me. That notwithstanding, they've got to be kept in jail, haven't they? 0344 499 1000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. Let's go to a break now. We'll take your calls when we come back. I'll read some of your messages as well. 0344 499 1000. Back in a mo.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, this is breaking news, folks. Andy Burnham has instructed prison bosses to pause plans for the early release of inmates in September, as the widow of a police officer described the scheme as deplorable. The move has sparked chaos in jails across England and Wales as officials scramble to work out prison release plans for thousands of inmates who are due to become eligible for early release after serving as little as a third of their sentence. So it looks as if the Prime Minister is actually ordering a pause of the entire release of all prisoners in September. I think it's about 6,000 prisoners were due for release, some of them murderers, some of them killers, some of them rapists, drug dealers, people like these two scumbags who killed Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper. Now, we were calling on the Prime Minister to, at the very least, keep those two behind bars, but it looks as if he has gone the whole hog and paused the entire early release scheme. Good for him. Good for him. So that seems to be the score. The Prime Minister has said that these 6,000 jailbirds who are due for release in September now will not be released, including the two killers of Andrew Harper. Extraordinary. Right, before we go to the phones, let's take a couple of voice notes. First of all, this one is from John on a rather different topic. This is about old Robert Jenrick getting caught on hot mic, saying that his interview with Ed Balls and Susanna Reid on Good Morning Britain was a waste of time. This is John on politicians and hot mics.
I just think this is crass, Kevin. It's absolutely ridiculous. But what it makes me think is, what are they actually laughing about behind closed doors? They're laughing about us, they're laughing at us, they're laughing about illegal migration. I've said it from the start, Kevin, this mob just do not care about this country. It's all about themselves. And this country is finished if we don't get rid of them ASAP.
I got that wrong. He's talking about the hot mic that recorded West Streeting and Shabana Mahmood. West Streeting, of course, the new Defence Secretary, taunting jokingly Shabana Mahmood, saying, well, your problem now is the new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, who is in the process of releasing all prisoners. Shabana goes, no, he isn't, no, and they're all laughing away. They've both apologised. The Prime Minister has spoken of the dismal duo's incredibly disappointing remarks. It's not to be joked about, that, is it, to say the least. Let's, what's the time? Yeah, OK, I'll read a couple of messages. This is Pam. She says the death penalty should be brought back for premeditated murder, limiting police, politicians and services. I mean, the death penalty is one, it could be a solution, but Lissy Harper, Andrew Harper's widow, campaign for Harper's Law, which is that there should be especially severe sentences for people who harm, maim, injure or kill 999 emergency workers, including police officers, of course. So, yes, Pam, I see where you're coming from. Chris says, very serious about should shorts be banned in offices. Yes, says Chris, shorts should be banned from the office, men or women. It's your place of work. That's what Chris says. And what else have we got? This is from David. He says the police get a bad rap and in some cases deservedly so. How they put themselves out there every day and don't get much thanks. It is utterly disgusting that Burnham and his vile lefty sidekicks are letting PC Harper's killers out of prison. They don't care about us. Rape gangs, nothing. Violent foreigners roaming everywhere, nothing. Not safe to walk the streets, nothing done. It's just disgusting. 3 more years of Starmer Mark II. All the best. David. David in Leicestershire there. Yeah, good message that, David. I think most people would agree with that. They just don't care, do they? Shall we go to the phones? Yes, let's talk to Mike in Bridgend. Hello, Mike.
Hi there. Yeah, well, I was going to say that it's Burnham's first big test, and it's an obvious... What I find funny about the Starmer government, and maybe the Burnham government, too early to judge, but basically, the policy of releasing rapists and child sex offenders and murderers early, not murderers necessarily, but murderers and child sex offenders and all these people early and rapists, was an absurd policy. It's just... And that's what the Starmer government were doing. They were making policies which are clearly, first of all, dangerous for victims, secondly, absurd, and thirdly, we have an independent body which sets sentencing for everything, and that's oftentimes they're very lenient sentences for terrible crimes. Every time you look at a terrible crime in the papers and you think, well, that's going to get a 15-year sentence, it's like 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So the government's not meant to interfere with those decisions about sentencing guidelines. But then on a fiat, they just decided to go, well, prisons are a bit full. Let's just release like thousands of dangerous people. And that's why, in a way, Andy Burnham's got it easy. If he just looks at all the stupid decisions like Chagos, releasing rapists early, and just overturns those decisions, he'll be...
I agree with that. I totally agree. I thought he could score a very good goal here. By announcing that at least those two scumbags who killed Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper, we won't release them. But he seems to, as we're talking, Mike, he seems to have gone the whole hog. The Times is reporting that prison governors have been told to pause plans for all early releases set for September. So that might be interesting.
You absolutely have to, though, because fundamentally, if you release, say, 2,000 sexual offenders or whatever,
6,000 going to get released in September. Yeah,
and they commit violent crimes, or they attack somebody or rape somebody. Basically, that's on the government for releasing them. So, anybody who's got any brains, if I was Prime Minister and I was coming to number 10, that'd be my primary thing. I'd be like, well, I can see that the previous government was releasing in September a load of violent offenders. That's not going to happen. I mean, it's just...
the thing is, Mike, I mean, I absolutely agree with the thrust of what you're saying. These people shouldn't be released. And the government doesn't do this lightly. They're doing it because the prisons are overcrowded. They're just too full. So they have to make these terrible decisions about who can stay and who can go, who can they release. And the more they release, this will be the third raft of releases, I think, in September, the more thousands of serious criminals they release, the more serious the offenders are that are let out on the street. So now we're down to killers, to rapists, to paedophiles. That's just a mad policy. I want to hear from one politician at least, maybe Andy Burnham. We are going to begin right now an emergency programme of building prisons. How about that?
The huge weight, the huge power of the British state, right? The British government, which back in the day in World War II, invaded basically France to liberate France, can't build some prisons to temporarily house a few thousand people urgently. It could be done. It's just... Of
course it could. Remember the Nightingale hospitals in the COVID crisis? We built, was it 3 Nightingale hospitals in about 2 weeks? It can be done. They could do it if they wanted to, and I think it's a matter of urgency that they do this. Keep saying, well, the jails are full, so we're going to release these people. How about we're not releasing them, we're putting them in a new prison?
Not only that, though, is other policies they have, for example, currently, whereby... For example, in London, an asylum seeker came into London. He was a convicted terrorist somewhere in Saudi Arabia. And they knew that when he basically got placed in that hotel, and he went on to rape somebody in Hyde Park, that particular person.
Oh, that one. So yeah, I remember that.
The obvious dangers presented by that as well. And that's just like, well, we'll just distribute everybody across the country. You don't know who they are. But they know, the government knows that doing that, you're going to be bringing people in who really shouldn't be in the country. And they've kind of just gone, well, it's difficult to do anything otherwise than what we are doing, so we'll just carry on.
Yeah.
And there's no common sense.
No, there's no common sense. But that said, you know, the government feels it can't stop these policies because they literally have jails that are full up. But it looks like Andy Burnham is going to try to do something about it. But these are interesting times. Mike, good call. Thank you for ringing. Mike in Bridgend there. Yeah, we're still... a deputy governor of a prison has told the Times, we have been... This is important. We have been told to put planning on hold until it is clear what the new ministerial team's intentions are. It has caused bedlam. So already these jails preparing to release 6,000 serious criminals in September are in chaos because they now feel that maybe they're not going to be allowed to release them. So in some ways good for Andy Burnham, but this is extraordinary. So we'll talk more of this after the break. Get on the phone, 0344 499 1000. Your call's next. Stick around.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to The Royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Quick text from Paul saying, okay, if you're going to release prisoners early, why not release those who have committed petty crimes instead of murderers and rapists and groomers? Well, Paul, the thing is they've already released all the people who they considered to be guilty of lesser crimes, so they're now down to rapists, killers and paedophiles. So they've already done that. The lesser criminals have already been released. We're now on to serious criminals, if you see what I mean. Here's a voice note from Richard on the early release scheme.
I think that the next time you get a Labour politician on who tries to blame the Tories for not building enough prisons, you might like to ask them how many they've built. And I distinctly remember Stephen Kinnock kicking up a little bit of a stink over one that was going to be in his constituency. So moving on, I think really the best way to deal with this, if they're not going to do it, and the Uni Party are not going to do it, is two things. One, ship out all the foreign criminals, and secondly, Reform will do it, with or without the blessing of the Uni Party.
OK, then. Let's go straight to the phones and let's talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hi, Jill.
Oh, gosh, Kevin, I'm sort of gritting my teeth listening to this. Do you know what?
the justice system, as far as I'm concerned, these judges and the so-called justice system have lost the plot.
It's not serious. Our British justice, which used to be the envy of the world, is now no longer serious.
Rubbish, absolutely. And there was a time, I remember when I was young, that the thought of someone going to prison, breaking the law, being picked up by the police, I mean, that was just not, you just did not, you had to be afraid of those things. And now, I mean, people are happy to go to bloody prison. They really are. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but... That's
all right. We allow that word, don't worry.
They're almost happy to go to prison because they probably get more in prison than they would out on the streets.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they're sort of holiday camps, warehouses where people learn how to take drugs and things like that.
We need to get rid of some of these judges and their stupid sentencing when it comes to what people have done. And I know, I mean, I've criticised the police and the way they are and everything else, but I think if I was a policeman or a policewoman and I was doing the job, I would lose heart when it came to trying to find a criminal, simply because if they get caught, they're going to be sat in front of some fool with a wig on who's going to say, you know, so you killed someone, all right, well, we'll
sentence you to 5 years and you'll be out in 3. Exactly right. I've got a text here, Jill, from Jane. It's a good point. You know, I mean, first of all, I think the government should be building prisons as a matter of urgency. We need more jails, quite clearly. But you know, I think we've got something like 80,000 prisoners in this country. It is well known that more than 10% of them, you know, 12,000, something like that, are foreign nationals. Jane says, send all foreign prisoners back to their country of origin. That's a thought. If we got rid of the foreigners from our jails, that would clear up, you know, 10,000 cells or so.
Exactly, and the trouble is that they keep banging on about ECHR, you know.
Of course.
It doesn't apply. I just, if someone breaks the law, if they're not born in here, they're not, then ship them out. I wouldn't ask another country if it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just put them on a plane, you know, don't get the permission first. This bloke, Shabir Ahmed up in Rotherham, you know, Rochdale, just put him on a plane back to Karachi, and when the Pakistani says we haven't agreed to this, well, deal with it, you know what I mean? I'm getting a bit fed up with it. Jill, really good call. Always great to talk to you. Another great call. Thank you very much, Jill in Cornwall there. Let's go to Adrian in Kent. Hello, Adrian.
Oh, hi, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm all right. What would you like to say?
Well, I was thinking seriously about this early release of the two
killers of Andrew Harper.
Yeah. I mean, I personally known a couple of policemen for, or retired policemen for like 34 years, and they always said to me, you know, when they were working, you know, if somebody took a policeman's life, then that's what they should get.
Yeah. Well, quite. I mean, we've spoken to the union representative of the coppers in Thames Valley, where Andrew Harper worked, and you know, she's furious. All of his friends and colleagues are furious. His poor grieving widow and poor grieving mother are obviously furious, but also really, really upset, saying that their loved one's memory has been insulted by this. Andy Burnham looks like he's trying to do something about it. He's told prisons, we're learning from the Times is reporting that prisons have been told to put the release scheme on hold. Whether or not that is practical, I don't know.
But the other issue I have here, Kevin, is that you know, who's making these decisions? Because I thought the judicial system meant you had to go to a parole board to get released.
Well, no, you don't with these cases. No. These are just decisions that are being made because they have to clear out thousands of cell rooms, get rid of prisoners. So they just say, right, well, you know, his crime wasn't quite as bad as this guy, so he can go. The other guy stays in. It's ridiculous kind of whack-a-mole, really. It's absurd. But listen, Adrian, good call. Gotta move on, though. Let's quickly talk to Brian in Whitley Bray. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Kev. Yeah, I mean, I vote for reform, but, you know, when I look back at what's gone on, right, it's pretty simplistic to me. Theresa May's government did close a lot of prisons down to save money, and they brought in private, private...
Well, yeah, a lot of them are privately run, yeah.
Yeah, that's all wrong in my books. I mean...
I don't care whether they're privately run, we just need more of them.
Yeah, but the thing is, the people who are doing them, who are in the prisons, they're inexperienced, and they got rid of most of the experienced officers. And I don't
because the package is not good, they don't get very much money. No, I see. I know what you mean, Brian. Good call. I've got to move on because the show's nearly over. Brian in Whitley Bay there. Now, Peter Cardwell is in the studio. Alison has sent me a text, Peter, saying I think we should see Peter Cardwell's legs to answer your question. I put it, the Japanese women are calling for a ban on men being allowed to wear shorts to the office, and I said, in respect, because I have to look